Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Shri Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Om Shri Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Om Shri Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Om Shri Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Om Namaha.
Om Shri Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Mukham karoti vasalam pangum langayate girim yat kripat maham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam yat kripat maham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Did everyone get their small bottle, not bottle, container of ghee? What time they will get?
Afternoon.
Afternoon. It will be every day in the afternoon. It should be at a fixed time. There is a spiritual antidote and then there is a material antidote. Confirmed. The spiritual antidote for all kinds of diseases and viruses is the transcendental sound vibration of the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And the material antidote are all things that are connected with cows, especially what is described in the Shastra as the, what is that word, elixir? The ambrosial, it's like the supermost qualities and potencies contained and hidden, concealed, actually within cows, especially in the form of pure ghee, ahimsa ghee, ahimsa milk and ahimsa ghee. We continue our reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is also antidote. Canto number 4, chapter 13. Entitled the Descendants of Dhruva Maharaj. And today we are reading number 5. Yas ta Devarshina Tatra Varnita Bhagavat Kataha Mahyam Shushrusave Brahman Katsnyena Achastum Arhasi Yasta Devarshina Tatra Varnita Bhagavat Kataha Mahyam Shushrusave Brahman Karsnena chastumarhasi
Karsnena chastumarhasi
Yastha devarshina tatra
Yastha devarshina tatra
Varnita bhagavat kataha
Varnita bhagavat kataha
Mahyam shushrushabe brahman
Mayam shushrusave brahman
Karsnena chastum arhasi
Karsnena chastumarhasi
Yasta devarshina tatra
Yastha devarshina tatra
Varnita bhagavat kataha
Varnita bhagavat kataha
Mahyam shushrushabe brahman
Mayam shushrusave brahman
Karsnena chastumarhasi
Karsnena chastumarhasi
Yasta devarshina tatra
Yastha devarshina tatra
Varnita bhagavat kata
Varnita bhagavat kataha
Mayam shushrushave brahman
Mayam shushrusave brahman
Kartsnena chastumarhasi
Karsnena chastumarhasi
Yasta devarshina tatra
Yastha devarshina tatra
Varnita bhagavat kataha
Varnita bhagavat kataha
Mayam sasrushave brahman
Mayam shushrusave brahman
Karsnena chastumarhasi
Karsnena chastumarhasi
Yaste darvashina tatra
Yastha devarshina tatra
Varnita bhagavat kataha
Varnita bhagavat kataha
Mayam shushrusave brahman
Mayam shushrusave brahman
Kasnyena chastam arhasi
Karsnena chastumarhasi
One more.
Yasta devarshina tatra
Yastha devarshina tatra
Varnita bhagavat kataha
Varnita bhagavat kataha
Mayam sasrushave brahman
Mayam shushrusave brahman
Karsnena chastumarhasi
Kasnyena chastam arhasi
Yaha,
Yaha
which,
which
taha,
Taha
all those,
all those
devarshina,
Devarshina
by the great sage Narada,
by the great sage Narada
tatra,
Tatra
there,
there
varnitaha,
Varnitaha
narrated,
narrated
bhagavat kataha,
Bhagavat kataha
preachings pertaining to the activities of the Lord,
preachings pertaining to the activities of the Lord
Mayam,
Mayam
unto me,
unto me
Shushrushabe,
Shushrusave
very eager to hear,
very eager to hear
Brahman,
Brahman
my dear Brahmana,
my dear Brahmana
Kartsnyena,
Karsnyena
fully,
fully
achastum,
Achastam
arhasi,
Arhasi
kindly explain.
kindly explain.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
My dear Brahmana. So this is Vidura addressing Maitreya. Vidura is Kshatriya. Maitreya is Rishi, Brahmana. We see throughout the Bhagavatam Yudhishthira Maharaj hearing from also Narada. Many people hear from Narada, of course. So Vidura is speaking, my dear Brahmana, how did Narada Muni glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And what pastimes were described in that meeting? I am very eager to hear of them. Kindly explain fully about that glorification of the Lord. Kindly repeat after me. My dear Brahmana,
My dear Brahmana,
How did Narada Muni
How did Narada Muni
glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead?
glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead?
And what pastimes
And what pastimes
were described in that meeting?
were described in that meeting?
I am very eager
I am very eager
to hear of them.
to hear of them.
Kindly explain fully
Kindly explain fully
about that glorification of the Lord.
about that glorification of the Lord.
Purport. Srimad Bhagavatam is the record of Bhagavat Katha, topics about the pastimes of the Lord. What Vidura was anxious to hear from Maitreya, we can also hear 5,000 years later, provided we are very eager. The purport is shorter than the text. Sometimes happens. Sometimes there's no purport. So the translation again. My dear Brahmana, how did Narada Muni glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And what pastimes were described in that meeting? I am very eager to hear of them. Kindly explain fully about that glorification of the Lord. So the Bhagavatam is especially that special scripture, that very unique scripture which is especially stressing the importance of focusing and hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We can recall how in previous chapters, or previous canto actually, the whole outcome of the meeting between Narada Muni and Srila Vyasadeva was that although Srila Vyasadeva, knowing that Kali Yuga would begin, you have not sufficiently narrated and the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of God. Can fully satiate the benefit of hearing from the great transcendental literature. Many years ago, I happened to be visiting one district in Bengal. At that time it was called. Now, as I came to know recently, many of the same districts I visited are now divided into north and south, or east and west. Kali Yuga progresses. Just like now we come to know that there are, who knows how many countries in the world today? 195. Prabhupada would say, the flags are increasing. United Nations, the flags are increasing, but the division is increasing also. So I was visiting Midnapur, and one of our great followers, one of our supporters. I believe he was a life member. I was hoping to see him, but I came to know that he had gone all the way to Vrindavan to hear some Krishna. This was the culture when we didn't have all of the modern distractions that we do have, beginning with our own cell phones that and television, etc., like that. And in those days also, up to even not that, for example, in Orissa, even more recently when I was visiting as part of the Dharma Gogram Yatra in Purulia, which is south, touching Jharkhand, in touching the state of Jharkhand, which used to be Bihar. In every village, you remember? What do they call that? Was called Bhagavat, I think Tungi, something like that. No one is here from Orissa. They would know. That was a daily activity. It was like every day we eat, so every day we hear Katha, because that's the soul. The spiritual food for the soul is hearing Katha, Krishna Katha. Because hearing Bhagavad Katha takes us out of our material existence. And we know, every single one of us, that that material existence is not such a nice experience. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada Maharaj, by saying that this material world is and it's just like when we due to the call of nature, we do our business and get out of there as soon as possible. So this Bhagavad Katha is what Vidura, because he's a great devotee, he is eager to hear from one of the most, well, he is actually described as most qualified devotee, advanced devotee of the Lord, Narada Muni. Activity that is ongoing, hearing, for example, from Mahabharata, or hearing from Ramayana. Now I think they have maybe once a year, a 2-week or whatever period where people hear the stories of the Ramayana. But this used to be like on a daily basis. And this would bring immense joy and happiness. Because this is also explained from the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, the same message. Srinvatam swakatha Krishna punya sravana kirtana ridyanta stoya badrani vidunoti suritsatam. The beginning of a nice series explaining the scientific process by which our heart actually becomes purified. Our problem is that our heart has been contaminated by the contact with the modes of material nature. When we hear Bhagavad Katha, and when, even after hearing Bhagavad Katha, if we hear on a regular basis Bhagavad Katha, then the consciousness that is developed when we are attentive in hearing this Bhagavad Katha, this consciousness, not only during the process of hearing in a class, but this consciousness will actually be with us. We will carry that consciousness. That's what it means actually to become Krishna conscious. We will carry, we will gradually develop and maintain that higher consciousness. And therefore, wherever we go, we experience of this material world, which tends to be distractive or distracting to our main purpose of life, we will know how to deal with it. We will not become, we will not allow ourselves to become distracted. Krishna will give us gradually. It is ultimately due to Krishna's kindness. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. Krishna gives that intelligence how to continue to advance in spiritual life. We mentioned before also how Bhagavatam that we know on this planet is only one portion of the Bhagavatam. There are more pastimes that are not related in this edition of the Bhagavatam on other planets. What to speak of the Bhagavatam in the spiritual world, which has unlimited pastimes of the Lord, because those pastimes are ever increasing. And Prabhupada would remind us that is why the Vedic culture is arranged in such a way. Vedic culture is systematically orchestrated, arranged, so that the common people, not only those who are brahmanas, but the common people, people in general, get more of an opportunity to connect with Krishna Katha. Simple example, Srila Prabhupada would mention this. When we live according to what is recommended in the Shastra in terms of agriculture, agrarian life, agrarian lifestyle, when we follow the natural system of nature, here in India we see it especially, more so in South India, the rains, maybe not as regular as before, but the rainy season still, here in India, begins in June. And it may begin at other times in other parts of India, and maybe at other times in other countries. The point I'm trying to make is that it is during the rainy season where one grows food, staple food, rice, grains, millet. And traditionally, that was it. You know, you grow food once a year, and you have enough for the whole year. You know, you don't need any special. Well, actually, you do. In every village, we can still see what's it called? They store the grains. They're very nice, attractive, round silo. A silo is, you see in the West. In the West, yeah, they have huge silos that go up, I don't know, 50, 100 feet.
Deep also.
Huh?
Deep also.
And deep also. What happened, I think last year, the year before, they had some big flood, and a lot of water went into these silos, and all of their corn or whatever they were stocking became wasted. They lost. But there's you see, because that's doing agriculture the wrong way, for the wrong purpose. Agriculture primarily is meant to be for individual, one grows food to meet the needs of one's family. And one's family means also including visitors that may come, brahmanas, and big festivals. So I was surprised actually some years back, one devotee who's a farmer in Indonesia, he was telling me that, Maharaj, on 1 hectare of land, that's 2.5 acres, you can grow more food than you need for your family. And you can keep grains for the next few years. The point being that we need to be attentive for 3 months in terms of agriculture. I mean, we should be attentive all the time, attentive to Krishna consciousness, but in terms of agriculture and the land, we need to work basically 3 times. I mean, that means that the rest of the year, we can engage in Bhagavad Katha. Yeah, that is what this he became quite popular. He made a small documentary, the title of which was Life is Simple, Why Make It Complicated? This was one young man from Thailand, you might have seen the video, yeah. Life is simple, why make it complicated? So he had gone to, he was from a village in Thailand. He went to Bangkok out of peer pressure because everyone was telling him, if you go to Bangkok, go to university, get a degree, get a good job, etc., etc. He did it for a few years, and then he figured out, this is not good. Let me go back to my village. And then he he gave a talk explaining and giving some nice photos of what he does in his village now. He spends like 2 hours a day maybe, doing something in his garden. He has enough food for him and his family. And then he decided, because when he was in Bangkok, he came to know that actually most people, to get a nice house, usually they have to take a mortgage, they have to borrow money. And that mortgage will be with you for the rest of your life practically, 30 years. And you end up paying, double your house or whatever because of the interest. So he figured out, I'll just make my own house myself on my land with local material, which he did. And there was a picture of his house. He didn't make only one, he made 3. And then he said, now my problem is I don't know what house I should sleep in. I have too many houses. So, Prabhupada explains that, the unnecessary necessities of life we have created. And there are statistics. It is established also. A few years back I was reading how something like 80 or 90% of things that are produced on the market, within 6 months, they're wasted, they're thrown away. Not only that, you know, people who make things, they're very intelligent. They're very intelligent. They make things in such a way that within 6 months they will break, not last, so that people have to buy more. You know, yeah.
There's a word for that.
Yeah, there's a word for that. This is when we go away, when we leave or reject the natural and simple system that is given in the Vedic culture, we just complicate our lives immensely, and therefore have no time for Krishna Katha, have no time for chanting Hare Krishna, isn't it? So therefore the need and the importance to, in order to have the proper time, then simplify our lifestyle, which of course some devotees, who was telling just yesterday, or the day before? Yeah, you were telling. Somebody came here and thought that, how can I give kotha, or how can I live here because there's too many things to do and I won't have time. Is it something like that? Times, if we leave the city and if we go to the country, I won't have time to chant, I won't have time to do anything. There is some element of truth in the initial stage because there's an adaptation. One has to adapt lifestyle, and because most devotees don't know. I mean, not only most devotees, most people in the world today don't know the meaning of simple living. They have lost the meaning of the word simple because people are too complicated. Know what he's saying. If we simply follow some of the basic instructions or directives given in the Shastra, whereby our acharyas, and especially beginning with our own founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, is explaining to us that when we do simplify our lives, then we will have more time. And we can see that in cultures where, or times where that culture was put into practice, was there. The importance of having trust and faith in what our acharyas are giving us, and being that we will create a situation whereby we will be able to have more time for hearing about and speaking about Krishna Katha. So I'll just read the verse again here, and if there's any comment or question before it gets too late. My dear Brahmana, Vidura again speaking to Maitreya, how did Narada Muni glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and what pastimes were described in that meeting? I'm very eager to hear of them. Kindly explain fully about that glorification of the Lord. And this is what this chapter is all about. We'll begin to hear what Narada Muni spoke to the Prachetas. And he spoke about Dhruva Maharaj, and we will find out specifically what he spoke about him. Yeah. Anything?
Were you able to see the video sent by Rasamandal Prabhu this morning about flowers?
I just saw the picture, and that was enough.
It's horrible. Something in line with what.
Okay, yeah.
thousands of trucks of flowers.
Thousands of, excuse me. This is what happens when we create an artificial situation. For example, we cannot imagine the example that some video sent by Rasamandal Prabhu regarding nowadays, for example, in all of our temples, excuse me, and I guess it's a practice, common practice everywhere, people have flowers shipped long distances. I know I used to personally for Sri Radha Manohar at our Iskcon Montreal temple, yeah. And and when you go there in the wintertime especially, Canada is already cold in the winter, but they store these flowers in cold storage. So it's already cold outside, and then you walk into this place where they keep flowers, and you have to choose your flowers. But so they keep the flowers, you have to open the door, and it's like even more cold. Yeah. But so they have huge warehouses. The same for food, I'm sure. Perishable food. Most of the food that is shipped is actually perishable, means it will spoil within a short time if it's not delivered. That's why they have sales very often. The food came the bananas came 2 days late. They're all going to ripe within 24 hours. Here's a sale. And people look for sales. Destruction due to not being able to maintain a system which in the first place is not meant to be there. An artificial system of false and dangerous dependency. Prabhupada would explain that Vedic culture is advising, warning us against such kind of extremely dangerous dependency, village life, where one grows one's own food, is based on the opposite, self-sufficiency, sustainability. Yeah. But I can, just by seeing the picture, video also, yeah. One last question or comment, yeah.
Mr. Prabhu's question is, now there is Bhagavatam class going on, and monkeys are coming and eating paddy and all the crop. So what should we do? Should we guard our crop or come for Bhagavatam?
So the question is, now we are here in South India, and some crops are growing, and the monkeys know about it, and they are also coming. So what is better, to attend Bhagavatam class and leave everything to Krishna and the monkeys, or not to attend Bhagavatam class and keep the monkeys some distance away? Krishna will give the proper intelligence. You have 2 boys. So 2 boys and you, that means 3 men in the family, and you just take some turn and work it out so that both happen at the same time. You get a turn to listen to Bhagavatam class. You're fortunate in the sense that your 2 boys are less inclined to attend Bhagavatam class. But they're fortunate because their daddy is attending. So he can tell them something. And in this way, hopefully, the monkeys at home. But sometimes they go to school also.
No, he's going job.
Oh, job.
Lockdown.
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 Oh, I see, okay, yeah. So there are advantages to lockdown.
He's going.
Whoever stays can watch live.
Whoever stays,
Whoever stays back can watch live class.
yeah, also live, correct.
Some
Yeah.
use of cell phone.
On real critical days, you can just stay there and open your cell phone, like so many people are doing, yeah. That's why previously, this was all arranged and you know, time schedule and whatnot. For example, the Goswamis in Vrindavan, they would have their Krishna Katha, even in some places now in Vrindavan, in the afternoon, in the late afternoon. Maybe because in a rural area, I mean, like in Indonesia where we have our Gita Nagari Baru, tight program. Our program in the morning actually begins before 4:30. We have Mangal Arati there at 4:15. I always have to be careful when I go there because most temples have at 4:30. Here we have at 5. But we have there since many years at 4:15. Why? Because everyone has land there, and therefore immediately after Tulsi Puja, so that means immediately after the first Mangal Arati, we have Bhagavatam class. We have Bhagavatam class which finishes at around 6:15, and then there is, because we have a deity of Nrsingadev, separate altar, like we'll have here eventually, Krishna willing. So then we have the, you know, like in Mayapur, Arati to Lord Nrsingadev before you have darshan. And so 6:15, I believe, or 6:30 is Nrsingadev darshan, and then followed by Guru Puja. Followed by darshan, and then Guru Puja. The whole thing finishes around 7 o'clock.
Before here also same.
Huh?
Here also before same doing that.
Before, yeah. Now we are at, you know. Anyways, maybe something to consider. But I don't know if it's going to be possible to have Mangal Arati at 4:15. We have a hard time at 5 o'clock. It's something that our local leaders can think about, meditate upon, and discuss, and try to have a consensus. Jai Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Gauda Premanande. Yes.
His Holiness Bhakti Raghav Swami Maharaj ki.